bit surprising how it unfolds. Let's make it a little more interesting than that, and let's have these birches. You'll see them single, or you'll see them in clumps, and often they're in a clump. I'll draw out 3 of them. Whether we paint 3 or not, I'm not sure. It'll depend. Or let's put the large one here, and a smaller one kind of snaking up through the middle. Right there, maybe there's some leaves or something here. Okay, so we have that. There's our sketch. Now this is where you can use masking fluid if you want, but does anybody not know what masking fluid is?
I don't know what it is.
Okay, and it's okay if you don't, because I use it less and less the more I paint. I think it makes the painting look more rigid. But what masking fluid is, I describe it as liquid masking tape. And you just paint it on there. It'll ruin your brush unless you soak it in soap. So you have to have soap in the brush, you take the masking fluid, paint it on, let it dry. It will protect the paper under here. Then you can paint the background right over the top of it. And then once the background's dry, you peel it off, and then you have the white paper to work with and you paint the trees. The problem is it makes the edge so defined and rigid, unless that's exactly what you want, you lose some of that dynamic nature of the painting. So I'm going to paint around these, which is the real true watercolor way. Birches will have bark that's peeling out, and I draw some of these on here, and I will paint a couple of these so you can see that. I've just looked at lots of these, so I kind of have an idea of how it looks. Let's have one out here in the light, that way. And this one's cutting across if the light's coming from this way. So very important, our light's coming from this way. We're going to have a shadow that's going to come down approximately here. We'll backlight this, and let's just add some dark in the background. Maybe it's against a lake. There's a lake here, and there's some weeds here. Just keep it simple like that. Okie dokie. Any questions so far?
I took one class where instead of masking tape, they
Oh, you tore
the
that.
edges of this and put the tape down, and it was kind of cool.
Yeah, so you can there's different widths of masking tape.
Right.
The masking tape that works, I was telling Sandy, is general purpose masking tape. It's hard to find anymore. You can get it at Menards or something like that. But painter's tape doesn't work. You can take a piece of masking tape like this, rip it, is this what they showed you?
Yeah.
In the middle, kind of haphazardly, let it go back and forth.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't rip out the side. And then you put this down that way, and you put the back side of it
Put the rough sides, yeah.
next to it, so they mirror each other. Do you see that? So now you've just created a tree. Is that right?
Yeah, I
Sue?
thought it was a way
It is
cool
kind of a cool
technique.
thing.
Yeah.
This down here isn't good.
It
So
prevented me from making straight lines.
yeah, and so that's one way to mask it without using masking fluid. You just
Yeah.
use the tape, but it's a little less predictable. But I'll paint over that too and show you how that would work. And so I don't forget, I gotta connect the bottom of that tree here. That is going to be one crooked tree. That's okay. All right, so we've got our water, and when I do these birch trees, I have several brushes on hand, usually flats, ready to go, because I need one for my dark shadow color, one for clear water, and one for the reflected backlighting, something like that. Before we do that, though, we're going to paint the background. So, the sun's coming from over there, and we need a background that's fairly dark. Let's just add some deep, rich violet back here as part of our background, and we can move some warmer colors right into that, and it'll give the appearance.
What's the name of your violet color?
Oh, I mixed French ultramarine and alizarin crimson to make that. And what it does here is it just makes the white birch tree stand out.
And you mixed in what kind of a yellow there?
I'll use some raw sienna,
Sienna.
use some quinacridone gold, just anything like that to
Okay.
give it some additional color. So when we do this, when you go back and do the demo, what you need is some kind of dark. It could be green or red or, you know, probably not orange, but any dark color behind the tree to make them stand out. Okay? And since we have the masking tape example on here, I'll just, so you can go right over that. Now I've painted the background, how easy that is.
Oh, for fun!
But that edge is going to be very rigid when we peel that off. So that's what masking fluid will do. You paint it on here and you don't have to be finicky and go around. But you lose these fun little, see how rigid and jagged and whatever it looks
Oh,
like?
you put the,
Yeah.
you put the rigid side down.
Oh, what's that?
They told us to do the torn side is on the outside edges, so you don't get a straight line.
That's what
No,
he
that's
did.
what I have, is the
Oh, you
torn,
do?
the torn edges are
Oh, you
here and
just
there. Yep.
tore way too good.
Yeah, it tore too smooth, but
Yeah.
very much like a snake.
And I see you did
So-
overlap that. I suppose you have to, otherwise it's gonna
Yeah.
get in between.
You do, just a
Right.
slight overlap there. So since purple and yellow are opposites of the color wheel, let's add some yellow in here and come across our birch a little bit as some leaves maybe in the fall, just to break up these solid patterns going up. We'll have a few leaves there. And I'll have a few out here, but I want to show you a dark against light on the sky. I can
Color
do
did
that
you
here.
use for your leaves again?
Oh, I think it was cadmium yellow, and maybe some raw sienna in there, like that. We can mix a little in here, so it'll look like something yellow on the shore that's merged in. All right, that kind of gives us an idea of what we're working with. We'll have a foreground landscape in there. Okay, and our water, it may not be blue, who knows, but I'm just going to use some cerulean blue here. So I can go right over this one, but I can't go right over these. That. All right, now we have our basic background in here. We'll put a little bit of sky in here too.
Are you still using cerulean blue?
Yeah, it's cerulean, kind of muddied up with other colors on the palette. Okay, so let me make sure you're seeing this right, like so. Okay, and there are so many fun little things you can do before you move on to the next thing. Well, let's say you want a pine or a spruce tree behind these trees. This is the time to do it.
What colors are you mixing to get that background?
A
tree?
blue and a yellow.
A blue and a yellow.
Yep. And burnt sienna even functions a little bit like a yellow if it's mixed with some of the blues. So you can see it's yellow, red, and blue.
Where
on my
did you
palette.
get that painting
Palette?
palette?
I got it from cheapjoes.com.
Cheap Joe's.
I
Okay.
can give you that address.
And-
I get all my stuff.
What's it called?
Well,
There's a smaller
I kept
palette.
your, yeah, I kept your,
So
and
what-
so you can leave the paint in there all the time, take it out of the tubes?
I just take it out of the tube, put it in there.
Oh.
So here's something you can do. I don't mean to cut you off, but I've got timing
No.
issues here
Yeah,
with this
I
wet paint.
understand.
I'm painting right in the wet paint. It's almost too dry here. A pine tree, a spruce tree behind these birches. And we can even, let's bring it all the way down to the foreground shore, but still just behind. And that'll really give darkness back here. So I kind of catch the feel of these branches. And it can just merge up into those leaves and disappear. That's about it. Maybe a couple of them will come out over here. That's another excuse to really set off your main actor on stage, the birch tree. Okay, then that has to dry. So we're going to speed that up. So you can see how my travel palette mirrors my studio palette, yellow, red, blue.
Cheap Joe's, huh?
Cheap Joe's, and then I'll have a few other colors, like here's a cobalt turquoise light, cobalt turquoise, lavender, that's an opaque, that's kind of fun.
But they don't ever dry out.
You have to spray them, they'll get kind of dry like this.
Okay.
But spray them, I'll leave a wet sponge in there usually. And there's a seal, a rubber seal on here, but it still leaks. If you're gonna fly, you gotta put it in a couple Ziploc bags.
So and all of those started like this?
They all start
started
like
in a
this.
tube?
Yep.
Okay.
So I can just demonstrate for you. Quinacridone gold. I just squeeze that out in these paint
Let me
wells.
see how the name of that color
Oh.
looks like.
Yeah.
People abbreviate it
Funny one.
and call it Quin Gold.
Quinn Gold, I didn't buy that.
Thank you.
Yeah.